All right, y'all, today is the day. We are finally getting to one of the most requested, probably the most requested album ranking in the history of this channel, and I'm happy about it. We are going to break down the albums of Kendrick Lamar. Yes, don't say I never gave y'all nothing. This one's gonna be dope.
What it do, young cuz? It's your man Bun Squeaks holding it down for the SIS till I D-I-E. You know what it is. And today, cuz, we talking legendary albums today, cuz. Y'all want to know about legends? Y'all want to know about classics? You want to know about hits? We talking about it all. We talking about Kendrick Lamar, cuz.
What up, players? Thank you once again for joining me, your boy, on the latest edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions. Right here on YouTube, obviously. That's where you're watching this. And today, as we said earlier, we're talking all about Kendrick Lamar. I'm a pretty big Kendrick fan, so I'm pretty hyped about this. But before we get started, you know what's up. Do your man a favor and slide on down. Hit that like button. Not gonna hurt you. Just click it. Click that share button once it's done, because you know this video is gonna be dope and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. And then, of course, subscribe if you haven't done it already. Subscribe. Don't cost you anything but some love. And we all need a little bit more love in this world. So I appreciate that. And thank you for hooking up your boy. So yes, today, finally, we are going to break down every LP of Kendrick Lamar Duckworth. Almost forgot the Duckworth there. Kendrick is a generational talent. Let's just put it out there. During the 2010s, if you know me, if you watch this channel, if you read Soul and Stereo, you already know my thoughts about how music has evolved in the past decade and a half. And it's really seen a jump from sizzle over steak. It's all style over substance. But there are a few artists who are still carrying on the traditions of hip-hop, which gives you style and substance. That's all I want. But no one has done it to the level of Kendrick Lamar. I would argue that he has not only one of the best discographies of the past 10, 15 years, without question, but one of the best discographies in terms of consistent quality of all time. Yes, all time. I know we make our top 5 lists and top 10 lists, and we make it bulletproof and no one can move around. Kendrick has moved all the way up my list. He's in my top 5 right now because he has consistently shown that he has continued to create, be creative, and push hip-hop forward when so many other peers are just looking for the Instagram hit, the TikTok hit, the radio joint. He's really pushing the genre forward, and I respect that. His consistency has been stronger than Jay, stronger than Nas, stronger than Drake. But not only are we going to just talk about the other folks, we're going to leave them alone, because today we're going to let Kendrick shine. I'm all hyped. Y'all can tell I'm hyped. Like, this is the first time in a while that I get to be the stan. I'm the stan of the podcast. So I gotta reel myself in because I'm too excited. Can you imagine if there was some multiverse out there where there was an Ed who didn't like Kendrick, who underrated his albums, underappreciated them? I mean, that gotta be crazy, right?
What it do, young cuz? It's your man, Bun Squeeze, holding it down for the Soul and Stereo Sessions. Today, we talking about Kendrick Lamar. We talking about legends and classics today, cuz. But I don't think the big homie likes classics and legends, cuz. He don't like nothing, cuz.
Greetings and salutations. You are honored to be at the latest edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions, where we give you the honest, unequivocal truth about the albums that you have been overrating for years. Albums like Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. Off the Wall? More like not offering enough depth. 3 stars. Albums like Songs in the Key of Life. A solid project for sure, but lacking 3 stars. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On? Well, Mr. Gay, indeed, what is going on? An album filled with protests and promise, but no purpose. 3 stars. And today we have the displeasure of reviewing Kendrick Lamar. We shall see how this goes for my very discerning taste. Ugh. Suddenly got the vibes of a player haters ball going on somewhere in the multiverse. Whatever. We getting down to it. Kendrick Lamar's albums ranked from bottom to top. Y'all know what it is. Coming in at number 6 is Untitled, Unmastered. I guess it doesn't really have a title. The title is Untitled. Whatever. Anyway, in 2016, between releases, Kendrick decided he was going to drop some remaining tracks from the To Pimp a Butterfly series, from those sessions. And he was like, hey, I got some hot music. Let's share it with the world. Not necessarily unprecedented. We've seen it with Nas and the Lost Tapes and some other artists as well. Drake has done it as well. But it's just something about this series that in just less than 10 tracks, this dude's scraps are better than most folks' entire LPs. There is so much substance here. There's so much commentary here. And coming off of one of his greatest creative peaks, we'll get to that later, he was able to continue that role, and you can really tell that he really had something to say. The jazzy production is dope. And these songs, even though they're technically unnamed, are still gone on to be some of his most remembered in his catalog. Blue Faces, Levitate, they're not even the real names. It's just the names that the internet has made up. But even though this is an unofficial release, it's still officially one of the better albums of the 2010s. Even in his sleep, Kendrick killing y'all. Imagine the audacity of passing off Leftovers as a full album. Ugh. A lack of dedication to one's craft. 3 stars! Coming in at number 5, and this is going to get me in trouble with some of y'all, is Section 80. I'm not saying this album is bad at all because it's coming in at the bottom of the list, but that's kind of how lists work, y'all. Like, something's at the top, something's at the bottom. Because, again, sort of like Untitled, Unmastered, this album is better than pretty much any album I've heard in 2023. What a weird state of affairs that is. But that's the high bar we're talking about here. So when this album released, it was coming off of Kendrick was starting to get a little bit of mixtape buzz. And I had heard the mixtapes and I thought he was fine. I thought it was good, but it wasn't anything that blew me away. This is the album where I listened and I said, okay, this guy has something. And I hadn't had those feelings since DMX's debut album or Missy's debut album. These albums that really stuck with me is like shifts. You could feel like a shift coming. And I felt that with Section 80. This was a young man who was very, very open, talking about what he was seeing in his world. And he was not conforming. He was not like, oh, gotta have an auto-tune song. Oh, gotta have a girl song. Gotta have this. He was just telling his story. And I remember Keisha's song specifically. When I heard that, I was like, my gosh, this brother is on some stuff. This album, again, has kind of gotten a larger reputation as time has gone on because it was the entry point for a lot of fans. And in that case, it's become maybe a little overrated, just a little bit. But again, that's just kind of nitpicking because as an album itself, there was plenty of room to grow. That's why it's number 5 on the list, but showed the potential that was to come. Coming in at number 4 is Damn. This is another album that I feel like has kind of an up and down trajectory when it comes to fans embracing it or not, because it was a little bit of a shift from the Kendrick coming previously. But every good artist has to evolve, but Kendrick was able to stay laser focused in that evolution. This album is known as the Pulitzer Prize album because a brother won a Pulitzer for it, and it's absolutely well deserved. It's not as heavy and jazzy and kind of, I don't want to say spacey, but it's not as the themes aren't as broad as the previous albums. This one is a little bit more focused, harkening back to his earlier releases. And he does take the opportunity, though, to do that experimentation with production. And, of course, the insane storytelling. Like, the album closer is a crazy, blows your mind. But Kendrick is still Kendrick in because he's hitting hard with that production. He's hitting hard with the wordplay. And the storytelling is absolutely near the peak of what we've heard from him. I can understand why this one kind of throws some fans off because it's such a departure from the album before it. But in terms of quality, again, another win and another great album from a dude who just does not miss. Damn! This album is named after a beaver's house. 3 stars! Alright, coming in at number 3. Yep, this one. Good Kid, Mad City. The next albums or so on this list, anyone could be number 1. And I think that this one specifically would be a lot of people's number 1s because it is Kendrick's breakthrough album. Although that Section 80 was the first and he had the mixtapes of Overly Dedicated, this is the album that made Kendrick the star. So obviously it kind of gets put into another level. Kind of like Carter 3 is for Lil Wayne. That's not his best album, y'all. Sorry. But it's the one that's most remembered and therefore it's elevated. But unlike Carter 3, this album kills Carter 3. And this album kills most albums that came out in the past decade because it's just that great. Kendrick is, again, the young man from Section 80, but he's taken that storytelling to another level. And this album itself talks about not only the struggles that he has seen over on the West Side, but the heart that he's trying to deal with. He isn't someone who's relishing into the negative aspects of his life. He's trying to find a way out, and he's doing that through his music. I contend, and I will say this on record, Sing For Me, Dying of Thirst is one of the best hip-hop songs of all time. Completely blew my mind. Not with just the storytelling, not with just the theme, the redemption. I mean, he ties religion into it. There's just so many levels in that one song. I mean, you can count it as 2 songs since it's 2 halves of one whole. But the thing is, there's just so much substance here that Kendrick is able to wrap things around. And I know people like Swimming Pools, and honestly, that's one of my least favorite songs. But even that, he's able to take a song with mainstream appeal, and it seems like a party anthem, but he's really actually talking about the evils of alcohol. That brilliance of that level at such a young age is really what made me a Kendrick fan and which makes this album so well remembered. Coming in at number 2, the album that I'm sure will cause the most rioting in the comments, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So this album has such a weird history, but I'll tell you my history with it. So when this album dropped in 2022, we knew it was coming. I mean, we hadn't had a Kendrick album in like 5 years, so the anticipation was super duper high. Where is Kendrick? What's going on? We were going through 2020 with the unrest and COVID. That so many fans wanted Kendrick to come out and speak on their behalf. Kendrick was going through some stuff, and that was portrayed here in this album. So I was on vacation when this album dropped. And everyone was DMing me about it, hit me up on Twitter. Oh, we can't wait till you see your review. And I'm like, I'm chilling on the beach. I'll get to it when I get to it. But I decided to listen to it. And I listened to it, and I listened to it, and I listened to it. And I had to stop what I was doing and just start writing. That's the writer in me. I cannot think of another time where I was listening to an album and had so much to say immediately that I had to stop. I had to break my vacation almost to just get out the feelings that I had from this album. And the reason why it hit me is because I could relate so much to what Kendrick was going through. Here's a man who had put the expectations of the world were put upon him. Kendrick, we need a new hit. Kendrick, we need you to talk about George Floyd. Kendrick, we need this, we need that. Where are your new artists? Where's SZA's album? He had all of this stuff on him. We didn't know that silently he was dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of pressure, a lot of things internally. So he stepped away. This album explains why he stepped away, the importance of mental health, and whereas everyone's looking for bangers and hits, This album isn't about hits. It's about healing. It's about breaking generational curses. And that's why this album to me was just so well done. I know a lot of people were put off because it is very dense. It's very heavy. It's not an album that's about getting hits and getting charts. This is an album that Kendrick needed to make for himself. He had already achieved a level of stardom. Well, he didn't need to do all of this stuff. He didn't need to do any performing and tap dancing on social media. Big steppers, by the way. I see what you were doing, Kendrick. No tap dancing for him just for likes. What he needed to do was use his music as an opportunity to heal and to heal other people. You can't listen to a song like Mirror or Mother I Sober and not recognize those things that have happened in your own life and family and reflect in them. That's what this album was absolutely about. Is it a perfect album? Of course not. I don't know why. I still don't know why we got Kodak on it. That's a whole other video. We can talk about that another time. But in terms of themes, I can't think of an album in the past 10, 15, maybe even 20 years that talks about the themes that goes through the black community and are ignored in the black community that he puts a voice to. That's why this album is so important. It's not going to be one you're going to be banging on the way to the club, but it's absolutely one that I think will be remembered and respected more in time. And it is one of the very, very, very few, I can count them on one hand, albums that I gave 5 stars since I have been doing this Soul and Stereo thing since 2008. There only been a couple, and Kendrick is one of them. Some of y'all don't like it, so I don't like some of y'all, so it's okay. This album is absolutely incredible and one of my favorites, maybe of all time. Imagine releasing an album with no mainstream singles, no radio hits, as the youth say. Just a bunch of songs of men and women screaming at each other, screaming obscenities. If I wanted that, I'd watch The Housewives. Please. This is one big therapy session, and therapy session that I was not invited to. I do not listen to music to think about my feelings. I listen to music to escape my feelings. Having feelings in music is wrong. This gets 3 stars and likes it. 'Cause I don't. And coming in at number 1, yes, to Pimp a Butterfly. So when I gave Mr. Morale 5 stars last year, a lot of people pushed back. A lot of y'all watching this push back. Y'all say, I don't see it. This album got too much going on. It's too dense. It's not fun. I don't want to hear him talking about that, blah, blah, blah. To be honest, that was some of my feelings when I heard To Pimp a Butterfly. I respected the lyricism. I respected the storytelling. But sometimes I thought it got a little too weighty and it kind of collapsed under its own weight sometimes. And that's why I originally did not give it 5 stars. I originally gave it 4.5. Great album, but it just didn't hit that level for me. But the great thing about reviews and time in music is that as you grow into it, as you listen to an album, as you embrace it, and the themes hit you differently as you grow older and you know, things just change in your life. Sometimes it hits a little differently, y'all. That's why you got to revisit albums. Just listen to albums 3 seconds on Spotify ain't hit. You got to listen to it and you got to let it stick with you. Get on your ribs, so to speak. Let the music fill up your ribs, stick to your ribs. And this is rib sticking music here. Kendrick's jazzy approach to the storytelling here on To Pimp a Butterfly is some of the best we've seen in the past 20 years. It really harkens back to me, to early 90s hip-hop when I was first getting into hip-hop and we had the more jazzy sounds and production that leans upon that, but it doesn't leave a new generation in the dust. We can just start and stop with All Right, which became an anthem in the black community and stands as a classic song today because of what it meant and how it affects other folks. I remember, I live here in Birmingham, which of course is very instrumental in the civil rights movement. And I remember speaking to some people who were very active in the movement in the 60s as All Right was starting to catch fire. And they were saying, I don't get that song. You know, it's so much cussing. It's cussing in the song. How can this be an anthem? Well, times change, times evolve, and this song was able to connect with a younger generation. Yeah, the older generation might not be messing with it, but if you listen to the message of the song, it absolutely reflects the values that we were trying to push forward, and even that previous generation was pushing forward. This is, and I'm saying all that to say because this is a generational album. It's an album that you can listen to in a moment and you'll say, I don't like this, I don't like, they ain't do this, I would have done it like that. But the themes are universal, and that's what makes it so much stronger. This album is an absolute, in my opinion, masterpiece. And yes, even your boy can be wrong sometimes. I have upgraded this one to 5 stars. The best album in Kendrick Lamar's discography. And in my opinion, the best album of the 2010s. Mr. Morale on his heels though. I must admit this album is better than most. But most albums are horrible anyway. And this one is just merely above average. I'm sorry, not 3 stars. 3.5 stars. I'm feeling generous today. Alright, that's it, y'all. All of Kendrick Lamar's albums ranked, even threw in the compilation just for a little bit of love. So, this is your turn. Tell me what you think. Which album do you think is number 1? I know you're going to say The Pimp or Butterfly. Tell me about Mr. Morale. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Is it too high on the list? Is it too low on the list? Let me know where you go. Would you move up Good Kid to number 1? Section 80, what you think about that? Let me know in the comments below. That's what's all about. But from one Kendrick fan to another, I gotta shout out my people. I'm happy to talk about albums that are good instead of talking about whack albums all the time. So, you let me know what you think. And this edition of the Soul and Stereo Session, this cavalcade of musical acumen has come to a close. Carry on, children. Carry on.